What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope you're all doing well. So, the trade deadline came and went. I may have messed up what I said the day was yesterday. My apologies. Usually it's the 31st of July or August 1st. Today, this year was July 30th. So, it is over. So, I'm going to go team by team, whatever team did, division by division kind of thing. And tell you what I did and what my thoughts are on each team's haul. So, let's get started. I'll start with the Baltimore Orioles in the American League East. They did a phenomenal job of trade deadline, in my opinion. They got Zach Eflin from the Tampa Bay Rays, Jackson Ballmeester, who's a pitching prospect outfitter, Matthew Edsel, and outfitter Matt Horvath go the other way. So 3 pretty good prospects. Ballmeester's a solid pitcher. Edsel's pretty good. Horvath's just okay. This is a really, really good move, though. Obviously, I talked with a bunch of these already, obviously. But once it happened, yesterday, I may not have gotten into too deeply. This is a good move. They really needed a middle of the rotation starter, and they get it with Eflin. They've had a lot of injuries in their rotation. They get it. And yesterday, they got Trevor Rogers from the Marlins. They give up Connor Norby, who's a second baseman, and center fielder Kyle Stowers. This is a really good move. He was Rookie of the Year finalist a few years ago. Has struggled the last 2 years, but slightly better this year. Still only a 4.53 ERA, but he's a solid innings in the back of the rotation. You give up a couple of okay prospects. That was a nice move. So kudos to the Orioles for strengthening their starting pitching depth, something they really needed. You mentioned they sent out Austin Hayes for Philadelphia for Sergio Domingos and Christian Pache. Hayes is a little bit better hitter, but Pache is just because the defender, if not better, and you pick up a piece for the front half of your bullpen. So depth-wise, you got Gregory Soto from Philadelphia for Seth Johnson and Moises Chalce, who was a prospect. That was a good move. Soto hasn't had a great year, but he's had a lot of success in the Lightning in the past to Detroit and then Philadelphia the last couple of years. He sent out a depth reliever of Seth Johnson and a prospect. That was a good move. Gets him on their left-hander in their bullpen. You pick up Eloy Jimenez from the White Sox for a pitching prospect, Trey McGow. This is a great trade by the Baltimore Orioles. Jimenez has had a rough year this year. He's missed time with injuries. He's had a very much so a down year, only 19 RBIs, 0 5 home runs, OPS under 700, only hitting, I think, 240, 250. But this is a guy, when he's healthy, he's been an all-star in the past. He's a really good young player. I think he's got 2 years of arbitration left. He's really good. And they pick him up for a price that I thought would be a lot more than what they gave up. And they also pick up Austin Slater as well from the Reds. He's a backup outfielder. Giving them some depth. So they did a really, really good job. You also pick up a couple of minor trades. You got Patrick Riley, who I don't know what it is from the Pirates, things like that. But they did a really good job. They you add to your rotation, you get Zach Eflin from a middle rotation. You get that number 3 starter you really needed. You signed him next year, I think, at $18 million. You pick up another starter in Trevor Rogers, who you can put in the back end of your rotation to give you some length out of the bullpen, maybe in the playoffs. You add to your bullpen, you pick up Sergio Domingos and Gregory Soto. You give your bullpen a little bit of depth. Because of pitch in the playoffs before. You pick up another bat in Eloy Jimenez if he can right the ship this year and in the next couple of years. He's a great player. And obviously you add Dak Folsom Slater. So really good job by Baltimore Orioles. Next up is the Boston Red Sox. I thought they would do a little bit more, honestly. So you pick up James Paxton from the Dodgers for a kid in rookie ball, Moises Bolivar. He hasn't had a great year, 4.4 year right. Had just been DFA'd, but he pitched for the Red Sox last year, had an okay year. He's had a lot of arm problems that have kind of slowed his career down a bit, but he's still a solid 4th or 5th starter. They've had a lot of injuries in their rotation. So you pick him up. You pick up Luis Garcia from the Angels, another depth pickup. Quinn Priester. I think the one thing I didn't like the Quinn Priester move. I thought that was kind of silly. There's nothing wrong with picking him up. I mean, in 10 games, 600 ERA over 5, so not the best player, but all right. He's give you some depth in your rotation. You've had a lot of injuries in your rotation. All right, you also picked up James Paxton. You picked up Luis Garcia. I see what you're doing. Lucas Sims from the Reds as well. They'll probably pitch out of their bullpen. But to give up your sixth best prospect, a really good hitting second baseman, Nick York, who's had a really good year to play at Double A. Not sure if it was worth it. The Danny Jansen move, I don't mind. The three prospects to give up Cutter Caulfield, shortstop, Edison Pauline's a shortstop, and Gilberto Batista. They have a lot of young position players. Dane Rafaela, David Hamilton, William Abreu. They have a lot of those guys. If he's hurt, but Tristan Case is out, have a chance to be a really good player. So I can understand maybe not want to go through a big bat. And I see why Nick York may be expendable, but for a minor league starting pitcher, I would have kept for something a little bit bigger. I mean, look, this is Henry Red Sox. They obviously pinch pennies more than they should. But they got a better backup catcher with danger. He's an upgrade over Reese McGuire as your backup catcher. You do pick up some starting pitchers. That's something you need. Getting James Paxton, who will go right into your rotation. Quinn Priester is fine depth as Luis Garcia. Lucas Sims is definitely in your bullpen. Garrett Cooper, in the past, he's been a decent bat. Can play first, can play the outfield. First base is a bit of a hole for them. Tristan Case has been out since late April. He's been running Don Smith out there every day for the most part. He hasn't been great this year. But I'm not even sure if Garrett Cooper is an upgrade, to be honest. He hasn't been playing a whole lot for the Cubs. So I would have. They probably should have gone after probably one more really good starter and probably one more bat. If I know the Blue Jays weren't really helping on trading Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I would have made a legit offer for him. My short term would have traded him in the division, but that's a guy I would have probably went after if I was them, and they really didn't. Yankees, I didn't think they did that good of a job, to be honest. The Jazz Chisholm trade, I was kind of in the middle of it. Overall, it's a decent move. He's a decent hitter. He's a solid, versatile defender. He can hit leadoff. He's, playing him at third. He's definitely an upgrade over DJ LeMahieu and Oswaldo Cabrera. He'd be an upgrade at second over Gleyber Torres. They gave up Augusto Ramirez is a good catching prospect, but also appears to have taken a firm grasp of the catching role for this year and beyond. And then Jared Stern, second baseman, and shortstop Abraham Ramirez. That was a pretty good move. The Mark Legman was pretty good. He's a solid middle reliever. Other than that, all he brought in was Aniel De Los Santos, who's it's like the same thing when they brought in Kenny Milton from the Angels last year. He's a depth reliever. You get from the Padres for some random outfield prospect. They really need to do a little bit more. I would like to see them bring in one more back. They've been struggling offensively for a while now. I know they're getting Stanton back, and he's obviously got a lot of power. He's got hits a lot of home runs. But first base to me is still a glaring hole with the rookie Ben Rice over there. Anthony Rizzo was hurt, so I'd like to see him get one more bat. And then I think they still need some more help in the bullpen. They really need a better closer. Clay Holmes is really been struggling. I think they should unload a little bit more. Rays obviously completely sold off, but overall, I think they did a good job. For Isaac Paredes, I think the Rays look at this okay. Look, it's our window. We're in a brutal division, the best division in baseball. We have two options. We can continue running out this mediocre team year after year, finish 500, miss the playoffs, maybe be getting fourth place in our division every year, or we could blow it up, probably finish in last place for a couple of years, but in a few years from now, have a really good chance of building a legit contender once again. So they chose, obviously, the potential route, which is the right move. They got a big call for Perez. They got Christopher Morel, I think, has a chance to be a really good player in this league. He's got a lot of power, though he's not hitting for a lot of average right now, but he had 26 homers and 70 RBIs last year in like 107 or 108 games. Only hitting like 200 this year, but does have 18 homers and 50 RBIs. He's only 25 years old. And you get two prospects as well in that deal. Now, you pick up Dylan Carlson, who's not had a good year, has not turned into what the Cardinals thought he was going to be, but Cardinals have had a bunch of outfielders come through that system and, not really turn out too well and then kind of blossom elsewhere. Look at Randy Rosarena with Tampa Rays. Of course, he's now no longer around. I'll get to that shortly. Now that maybe definitely return Armstrong was not very good. I thought you got a good return for Rosarena, Brody Hopkins, and Aiden Smith. Hopkins is a pitcher. Aiden Smith is an outfielder. Now you get back pitcher Dylan Lesko, outfielder from Bush Jr., and catcher J.D. Gonzalez was an okay return. I got a good return for Eflin. But overall, I thought they did a good job. You get back a pitching prospect for Alvin Rosario from the Dodgers. So overall, I think they got a good return for the guys that they sold off, and that was the right move for them to sell. The Toronto Blue Jays, overall, I thought, it was time to sell. They're in last place in the division. They're out of the race. They've had a disastrous season. It was time to sell. You sent Kikuchi to Houston, get a great return for him. Jake Bloss is a really good pitching prospect. Could see him at some point this year. You also get Joey Leperfado, who's now figuring second baseman with Wagner. Like I said, you flip Danny Jansen. You send Jaime Garcia to Seattle. You get back out there for Class A and Patrick got Sharp. You get a couple prospects for him. You get 2 prospects for Nate Pearson from the Cubs. You get a solid outfield prospect in RJ Schreck for Justin Turner from Seattle. You get a prospect for Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who's had a good year, 290 this year. You get a prospect from the Twins for Trevor Richards, the Death Starter. You even got you bring in Ryan Yarbrough, a pitcher from the Dodgers for Kevin Kiermaier. Actually, you sent away Kevin Biggio. It was time to give up on him. But they did the best they could. And it was time for them to sell. To the American League Central, the White Sox. They sold off as much as they could. Honestly, they could have gotten more back. So in that 3-team trade with the Dodgers and Cardinals, they sent out Michael Kopech, who was their closer. He hasn't had a great year. Eric Fetty, who's had a really good year out of the rotation. Tommy Pham has been decent. You get back Miguel Vargas, who I like. He's an infielder. He hasn't hit a whole lot at this level, but been a little bit better this year. Still really young. And 2 prospects, 2 shortstops, Alexander Alvarez and Gerald Perez. And the Eloy Jimenez trade, you got nothing back from him. Just Trey McGowan. I know he's had a down year. They probably should have held on to him, honestly, for another year. And then traded him next year. His value just wasn't that high right now. It's about as low as it's probably going to get. Now, you flip Paul DeYoung. He's only hitting 220. He's got 18 runs. He's a good shortstop. You get back a pitcher, Harold Rosado, the reliever from the Royals. You flip Robert Gross to Texas for some pitching prospect. So they could have done better, but they're definitely in some. The Eloy Jimenez trade was really what I didn't like. Cleveland Guardians made a couple moves to pick up Lane Thomas from Washington. Give up 2 pitchers. No, actually 1 pitcher, Alex Clemmy, and then 2 shortstops, Rafael Ramirez Jr. and Jose Pena. I thought that was a good move. He's had a solid year. They need Matt Bat, and they get a little boost there. You have Alex Cobb. Cobb's been hurt all season. Had a solid year last year. He's been around a long time. He's been a solid starter for a while. And when they get him back, he should be a nice addition to the rotation. Also, you lose Shane Bieber in April to Tommy John. He'll be a nice addition. Didn't do a whole lot else. They did a pretty good job. Cleveland's not a team that's going to mortgage the farm for 1 player. So, but they got a solid outfield bat that will help them and a potential piece of their rotation that could help them down the stretch. The Detroit Tigers, they obviously sold off. They didn't really do anything. They sent Jack Flaherty to the Dodgers. They got back catcher Theron Ronzo and shortstop Trey Sweeney. It's an okay return. Usually Kikuchi also went for more, and he's not. He should not be getting more than Jack Flaherty. They sent left-hand reliever Adrian Chafin to Texas for Joseph Montalvo and Chase Lee, 2 pitchers. You flip Carson Kelly, your backup catcher. Liam Hicks, who's another catcher, and Taylor Holmes, who's a pitcher. You flipped Mark Hanna for Eric Silva. You didn't really get a lot back for any of these guys. That being said, none of these guys had a ton of value. Chafin, we're going to get a whole lot back. He's a very good left-handed reliever. Has been for a while, but, guy who's older, cheap. And you were going to get a whole lot back. Mark Hanna hasn't had a great year. You weren't going to get a whole lot back for him. Flaherty's had a really good year, but, he's got a lot of injury concerns. Free agent to be. His value was a little bit limited. So they could have a little bit more, They decided to hold on to Skubal. I think that was the right move. I like to see them keep him. Could have done a little bit better, but also didn't have as much to sell, free agents to be wise. That's Flaherty. Kansas City Royals actually did a pretty good job. They pick up Hunter Harvey, who's a guy, when he's healthy, has shown to be very good. He's never healthy, but not a bad piece in at your bullpen. You get up a third baseman, Caden Wallace. I like them picking up Lucas Urqueg, a reliever from the A's. You give up a good amount. Mason Barnett's your 4th best prospect. He's a pitcher. Outfielder Jared Dickey and pitcher Will Klein. He's a very good reliever. You add to your bullpen. You pick up Michael Lorenzen for Walter Pennington, who's a pretty good prospect. Has pitched very well in AAA. He's pitched a little bit in the major leagues. Lorenzo's a solid ingredient in your rotation. Paul DeYoung, he's hitting a little better than normally. Obviously, he's always been a horrible hitter. But he's hitting 220 this year, which still isn't good. But he's got 18 runs this year, and he's a great shortstop. Been around a while. I thought that was a solid move. So Rose actually did a pretty good job. They looked to make a push to the playoffs. Minnesota Twins did nothing. That was a little bit disappointing. Pitching is not good. They're very good offensively. I think they're 5th in the league in runs per game or something like that. But their pitching lot, I think they came into the series with the Mets, a 21st in start ERA and 13th in the league in bullpen ERA. And, they lost 15-2 in game 1, and the Mets beat them. It was 2-0 last night. So, pick up Trevor Richards for some depth, and that's really it. I don't think they could have done more. They came into the series with the second wild card in the American League. Not terribly far behind Cleveland either in the division. They could have tried to close the gap on Cleveland or really make a strong push, and they really didn't. There's a reason that they've lost 16 of the last 18 playoff games. On to the American League West, the Houston Astros, I thought they do a little more, honestly. They pick up Kikuchi. You argue they overpaid. They're giving up Bloss, Fido, and Wagner. He hasn't had a great year, but they've had a lot of injuries in the rotation. I understand why they made the move. And you pick up Caleb Ferguson for some depth in your bullpen. That's really all you did. I thought they'd do a little bit more. David Glaringholt at first base. Thought maybe they could try and make a move for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You got an aging core. You may only have one or two more runs left in you. I would have went for a little bit more. You've close to the Mariners in that division. That's what I'm crazy about a deadline. They would have tried to keep up a little bit more, but they could have done some more. They really didn't. Angels, actually, they sold, obviously, but they got a really good return from Carlos Estevez, who's had a really good year as their closer. Get back 2 really good pitching prospects in George Clausen and Samuel Aldeguer from the Phillies. They got a really good return from him. I mean, you get back 4 prospects for Luis Garcia from the Red Sox, a death pitcher, which is good. You get back Matthew Lugo's a shortstop, Nico Cavadas, who's a first baseman, Ryan Zafarhan's a pitcher, and another pitcher in Jefferson Vargas. I think they overall did a pretty good job considering they were in sell mode. In Oakland, they did a pretty good job. They got a good return for Lucas Urkeg, reliever, Mason Barnett, Will Klein, Jared Dickey. And you flipped Paul Blackburn to the Mets. You get a pitching prospect in Cade Morris. So look, they didn't trade Rooker. I thought that would have been a pretty good idea to move him, but they could still get a lot for him in the offseason or next year. Mason Millers, he's hurt. That's a guy you can easily, if he goes out and has another big year next year, you can get possibly even more for him. No reason to minimize your return on a guy who you have so much control over. So I do think you should trade at some point because they're just so far away from contending these days. They're legitimately 4 or 5 years away from legitimately contending. Obviously, leaving Oakland after this year, going to Sacramento, and then they'll be in Vegas in a couple of years. So very messy. Obviously, they're a very big organization, but overall, they did a pretty good job selling. The Seattle Mariners were definitely one of the biggest winners of this trade line. They went off at a deadline. You pick up Randy Rosarena. I mentioned has not had a very good year. Came in only hit 211, but he's obviously been an all-star in the past. Great postseason hitter. So lost 15 home runs this year. You give up 2 prospects. Justin Turner, who's been a lot better as of late. He's still got a little bit of pop in his bat for a prospect. Jaime Garcia is a really good addition to your bullpen. 2 prospects. You able to get some for Ty France. You DFA not much, but something. You pick up JT Chargois. That was went under the radar from the Marlins. He's had a really good year out of their bullpen. 1.6 ERA this year. So they did a really good job. You also need to add some pop to your lineup. You add 2 guys who can hit the ball out of the ballpark, and Randy Rosarena and Justin Turner. And you add 2 really good pieces to your bullpen in Jaime Garcia and JT Chargois. So they did a phenomenal job at the trade deadline. From Texas Rangers, what they did was weird. So you did a couple of small buying moves. You pick up Chafin from Detroit for 2 prospects. That was a pretty good move. He's a very good left-handed reliever. Pick up Carson Kelly, who's a better backup catcher than Andrew Kisner. Himes had a down year. You bring back Robbie Grossman, some depth in your outfield. And you traded away Michael Lorenzen for Walter Pankins. So a little bit weird. Their team, they had not had a great year, but because their division has not been very good, they're still within 4 or 5 games of their division. I think they're 6 or 7 games out of the wild card. Well, they're not completely out of it, but If they maybe Lorenzo made one more move, they could have really made a push for the playoffs, but that was kind of a weird deadline for them. And the Atlanta Braves, I thought they would do a little more, honestly. So it's weird. They picked up Soler, Luke Jackson, which is something else they did. So they're basically trying to bring back that 2021 team. Remember they went crazy at the trade deadline, ended up going out and winning the World Series. They're winning 88 games, and somehow we're able to win the division and won the World Series. So Soler, who you picked up on the trade in 2021, he went out to win World Series MVP. Something similar. He's had an okay year, but he's got a lot of power. You pick up Luke Jackson, you bring back Luke Jackson for some depth in your bullpen. He hasn't had a good year, but provide some depth. He's up Maxick, who's been horrible, and he's been hurt, and Salvin Caballos. You pick up Zach Scherf for some depth in your infield, Jimmy Herger for some depth in your bullpen, but I thought they needed another bat, to be honest, and they didn't really do that. The Marlins, Alfie sold off, but overall they did a good job selling. I thought you send out Tanner Scott, who's a all-star closer this year, and Brian Holland, another reliever. I think he got a very good return. Pitcher Adam Mazur, Jay, second baseman, and a pitcher Robbie Snelling and Paulie. Two of those guys are top four in the Padres system. That was a good return. But you got a good return for Jazz. You send off Trevor Rogers. You send off Brian De La Cruz. It was time to give up on him and get back pitcher Jun Sok Shim and Garrett Forrester. You got a great return for AJ Coop getting Los Santos from Arizona. You flipped Chargois. You could have got a little more for Brazelban from the Mets, but overall, you flipped Bell. First name later, we're gonna get much for him. But they did a pretty good job selling off. And then the Mets, overall, the Mets did a pretty good job. They could have done a little bit better. I like the Jesse Winker move. He's a very good outfielder. He's had a good year. I like Paul Blackburn. Don't give up a whole lot. He's been hurt a lot this year, but when he's been healthy, he's been a solid fourth or fifth starter. He should be in the rotation over Tyler Miguel as their fifth starter, if nothing else. Obviously, you picked up Stanek for some depth in your bullpen. I like picking up Huascar Brazelban from the Marlins a lot. He's a very good reliever. He's got, I think, 3 or 4 years of control. Don't give up a lot. I don't think they would have to give up a lot more. I would like to see him to get one more really good starter, but adding Blackburn will help a little bit. Adding Brazelban and Stanek to your bullpen will help, and obviously Winker will help your lineup. Especially when Soler Marte comes back. But they could have done a little bit more. It was an okay deadline for them. Phillies, the rest of us give up a lot, but Phillies they have a great team. I think they said we're going to go for it, and I think that's the right move. I mentioned this. Look at the rotation. Their first 4 stars. Aaron Nola, they re-signed for 7 years in the offseason. Zach Wheeler, who's a stud. He signed like a 4-year extension in the offseason, so he'll probably retire a Philly. Ranger Swarzing has a couple years left, and Christopher Sanchez is very, very young, so he's got a bunch of years left. So these guys, plus and Gary Irvin, there's room for them anyway. You send out Page and Dominguez for Hayes. He's not struggling out there. Hayes is just goes with the defender as Page, and then you send out Dominguez. Something great. You get a better fourth outfielder in Hayes. You have Tanner Banks for some depth in your bullpen. Overall, I don't think they did a good job. But Estes was a big move. Getting upgrade in the 9th inning was something they really needed, and they got exactly what they were looking for. Now, Washington Nationals, so they decided to sell. They did a pretty good job. You got a pretty good return for Lane Thomas, pretty good return for Jesse Winker. That's about, they didn't have that much to sell. Trevor Williams has been hurt for a while. You weren't going to really get much for him. So there wasn't much for you to sell. They did a pretty good job. National Central, the Cubs really confused me. Not really sure what they bought, to be honest. They came in to the deadline about 6.5 games back of the wild card. Basically, were completely out of their own division. Got Christopher Morel and 2 prospects for Isaac Wright. I think that's a major overpay. Then you pick up the Nate Pearson for your bullpen, but then you send Mark Leiter away. I don't really know what they were trying to do. Very odd deadline for them. I think they overpaid for Isaac Paredes. The Reds, they didn't have a lot to sell. But you flip Frankie Montas, you get Joey Weimer and Jacob Yunis is not a good return. But the guy's got a year over 5. He has not been even an above average pitcher in 2 years. Tigers, I don't mind them picking up as maybe a reclamation project. You flip Lucas Sims and you flip Olsen Slater. If not, you flip Olsen Slater, but yeah, but they didn't have a whole lot to do. The Brewers didn't do a whole lot. You pick up Frankie Monk, don't give it much for him. He hasn't had a good year, but he was an all-star caliber guy a couple of years ago. Maybe he finds himself as his arm gets healthy. You picked up Aaron Savali a few weeks back. He hasn't had a great year. That was just for depth, but Brewers, I would have liked to see him do a little bit more. Maybe pick up a bat or two. But they should still win their division. Nothing else. And then the Pirates. They had an interesting approach. So you pick up Jalen Beek for some bullpen depth. Pick up Brian De La Cruz. That was going to be a star when after the actual trade into the Marlins a few years ago. Never really worked out. I like them picking up Kenneth Falefa. He's had hit 290 here. He's a very good infielder. You get a great return, Nick York for Quinn Priester. So Pirates actually surprisingly did a light buy. It was actually a pretty good idea. They realized don't really have anything to sell. They're not the best team, but because the National League is so wide open, they're still within like 4, 5, 6 games of a wild card spot. Let's light buy. Let's pick up Jalen Beeks to for some depth in our bullpen. Let's bring in Brian De La Cruz. Try to see if they can bring in a bit of a reclamation project in him. You're able to get a really good prospect back for Quinn Priester. You pick up Kenneth Falefa. Some pop maybe in the bottom half of your order. He's some defensive versatility. So who's the Pirates? They did a good job, I thought. St. Louis Cardinals, they did a pretty good job. I like the move to get Fetty. So a very good year. He's a nice boost for your rotation. You bring back Tommy Pham will be a solid addition for your outfield. You have Tommy Edman, who's been out all season, and a prospect. And you Gale and Dylan Carlson just fine. Armstrong hasn't had a good year, but nothing else will be there for depth. They did a pretty good job. Our team, late five was the move. What's the move? Try and get into the playoffs. National League West, Diamondbacks did a pretty good job. I think they overpaid for AJ Poop, but he's a very good reliever. Daniel Santos is a lot to give up, but do have a really good young core there already. I like what they went Floro move though. He's a very good reliever. You pick him up from the Nationals for Andre Chaparro, who's a third baseman. And you pick up Josh Bell, who hasn't had a great year, doesn't have a whole lot left, but he still's got some power. If that's nothing else, you give up nothing for him, and nothing else will be a power bound on the bench, can play first base if he needs to. So they did a pretty good job. They've turned around for the most part. They're on a rough start. Trying to see if they can sneak into the playoffs. The Colorado Rockies, basically nothing. You gave up Jalen Beeks for a pitching prospect. You gave up Nick Mears for 2 pitching prospects. They had a couple of guys up that could move. Maybe Cal Quantrill, maybe Ryan McMahon, but maybe Elias Diaz. They suck. They're so freaking irrelevant. Nothing surprising with that organization anymore. Then the Los Angeles Dodgers, they love the Jack Flaherty pickup. They've had a lot of injuries in the rotation this year. He's had a great year. He's had a bit of a bounce back year. You give up 2 prospects for him. I like the move. He sent out Vargas and 2 prospects. You pick up Tommy Edman. When he comes back, he's a solid hitter, really good versatile defender on the infield. That was a very good move. And then you get Kopech, who will help you in your bullpen. Second trade, you picked up Almazar, but trade deadline. He's hitting 300 this year. He's a good bat to ball guy, versatile defender. Kiermaier is a good defensive outfielder. Has hit well last year, but for his career and this year has always been a terrible hitter. But Gold Glove caliber center fielder. You only give it with Ryan Yarbrough. For him, you bring Kevin Biggio, who not a great hitter, but he draws a lot of walks and he's a good defender. Overall, I think they did a good job. They didn't make like a huge move like normally you like when they brought in Max Scherzer and Trey Turner a few years ago. But you pick up a very good starting pitcher in Jack Flaherty. You bring in some versatility in your infield, which you needed with Tommy Edman, who you get back eventually, and Alma Rosario, and also adding to your depth by bringing Kevin Biggio and Kevin Kiermaier. So they got for the playoffs, nothing else. And then we got 2 teams left. San Diego Padres did a very good job. You get Tanner Scott and Brian Holling and your bullpen for a big trove of prospects. Jason Adam, another piece for your bullpen. That's a great trade they make. So you also picked up Martin Perez for the back of your rotation. So they did a really good job. You add to your bullpen, you get some depth in your rotation. Them San Francisco Giants, they very confusing. So you send out Soler and Luke Jackson, don't get a whole lot back. You flip to the injured starter and Alex Cobb. You sent out Slater for a death pitcher and Alex Young. You brought in a death pitcher and Mike Bauman, but you traded away Cobb. I don't really understand what they were doing. Very weird deadline from San Francisco Giants. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. No podcast for a few days. Next time we'll see you probably won't be until Tuesday. But until next time, so long. Have a great day.